Hello, everybody. It's Holger Mueller here from Constellation Research, welcoming my newest colleague at Constellation, Michael Nee. Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm doing great. Busy day with a big announcement.
We're talking about the NBA playoffs, right?
Of course.
Do you know who's in the
MIT non-sports
semifinals?
guy, always on top of it. I know nothing about sports, so clearly I'm missing that storyline.
So, yeah, but exciting games. All right. No, we're talking about exactly the news that broke this morning, which could have happened 2024 because there was also the rumor that Salesforce was going to buy Informatica. Well, we had to wait till 2025 for that to happen, but it just happened this morning. And as you cover integration as by itself as good iPaaS, I cover it from an application development perspective. Let's have a quick chat what we make out of this. What's your first take?
Well, it's interesting. The CIOs and CDOs are certainly under pressure to scale, rationalize the tools, and deliver real-time outcomes. This whole agentic framework certainly putting a lot of pressure on their ability to deliver a whole data to action stack. And frankly, when you look at what was missing in Salesforce to deliver that, you're seeing exactly what they're trying to get from Informatica, right? You talk about data, data management, MDM or master data management.
But
and
then
really
put back on the spot, Michael, sorry to jump in here. Didn't they just buy MuleSoft 5-6 years ago for $4 billion? What happened?
Well, there? MuleSoft was, I actually get this question a lot about MuleSoft, and it's a leading question. MuleSoft really was around application to application integration. It's really that iPaaS solution that's been out there that really solved internal communication and communication across different systems for Salesforce. What you're really getting now is the ability to move to manage data. Whether it's ETL, data orchestration, these are pieces that are really leading in the case of Informatica to be able to move data into the sort of the agent force stack. And then on top of that, increasingly provide that master data management. How do you rationalize into a golden record for who is a customer, what is my products, and actually do so in a way that at least their positioning will be sort of a Switzerland-like play beyond Salesforce.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Actually, MuleSoft was closer to my MuleSoft because they were very developer-centric too. Just getting things done. Like you build something new. Oh my God, we finally done it. Oh my God, we haven't integrated it. Let's use MuleSoft. The death nail to a certain point that MuleSoft wasn't going so well for me was back, oh my God, I have to do the math, 2.5 years ago when Salesforce came out with Genie, its customer data hub, and was not using MuleSoft to integrate their data and bring their data in what is now Data Cloud. That doesn't look good for an acquisition. Doesn't mean that there's benefits of customers of Salesforce using MuleSoft today, but that was clear there was more needed. Informatica has been kind of like you said, the magic word, the Switzerland of data, right? Because they didn't keep any of the data. They want to become the Switzerland of AI. That was Informatica about 2 years ago in Las Vegas. I'm right now in Las Vegas again. Wonder why. But
let me turn that around on you real quickly, Holger. I mean, from an app velocity or developer velocity perspective, are we really talking about a platform designed for the AI runtime?
That is the ambition, of course, right? They said ready, set AI was the motto of the Informatica conference over here, right? But the interesting thing to me is like, do you still operate in the mode you build an application and now have to point-to-point integrate this? Or will the future of an application be built on what I call a data lakehouse, lakehouse, combined all together, data lakehouse in the future? So there is no integration anymore. Integration becomes a SQL statement. At Informatica, I was running around and talking to the marketing, talking to developers. I even asked Amit Valia, the CEO, and said, do you need a data lake house? And he said, I don't want to make any enemies. But I think that question is now history because guess what? There's data.com. There's data lake house running really well at Salesforce.
Well, I mean, I think Salesforce made that move years ago when they went to I forgot what they called zero copy. Before they've only doubled down on that, right?
Yeah, we have to make a separate call on zero copy. That's like a marketing scam of making customers copying all their data.
Open format really started making it just easy and much more portal for the data layer. And to your point, I think that it is with this acquisition really helping rationalize that data layer and making sure that you can use it and have a governed layer, which is more important. How do I make sure it's a trusted set of data that increasingly enriched with business semantics, so I can use it to answer questions both for self-service analytics as well as for agents. I think the real question here is, what's the mix and match of different components you're going to use from Salesforce or from some of your other vendors, whether it's another integration or other type of layer, right? And I think that's unclear.
So totally agree with you. That's something which we have to find out. But the current phase that we're in, you can ask a preschooler coming out of preschool what matters for AI, and they will know it's going to be the data. Right? We're in literally a battle for the data. And Salesforce needs to get more information out of ERP systems into data.com, into its data lake, in order to make sense. Because the irony of CRM is, right, and we both are CRM developers, 25 quarter century as colleagues back at the Big Red, right? So nothing happens in the real world if it happens in CRM, right? You create a customer, that customers will never get invoice service. You win an opportunity, it will never be delivered. You don't even get paid for it, right? So what's super strategic for Agentforce to work, to use the nomenclature of the old data.com, is that Salesforce has something which actually Ray, our founder, and us also former red colleague, that we need the opposite of the ETL, right? The ETL is the extraction transaction layer. We need the insertion transaction layer, right? Which gets intelligence, a modern application, a new application, and shoves it back to my old manufacturing systems, maybe even on a memory stick, right? Just to make them click, because I did my optimized view of the world plan in a modern, now AI-based, maybe agentic application on top of all the global data. And now I have to go back and report taxes in France, pay people in Germany, manufacture in Italy. How am I going to do this, right? I need the ITL, the insertion transaction layer.
Well, I think that you're right. I mean,
exactly that. Informatica provides your point.
You're spot on. I mean, I think this is where, everyone's been talking about, these lakehouse being, not just operational, not just, sort of analytic, but operational and real time. And that's where you're creating like your digital twins of the manufacturing floor, and understanding that something is awry. How do I actually have those flows of data, and how do I use it? And not only making decisions on it, but capturing that outside loop of learning. Did that decision make an impact? And continue to refine.
Exactly. And smart dealing, actually, from the owners of Informatica, from my perspective, I don't think they would have gotten 8 billion 12 months ago, because the whole AI topic wasn't as hot as it was, and MuleSoft was still newer on the books at Salesforce. So I think they got 1 or 2 billion more. So shrewd deal making by Amit Walia, the board, and whoever their owners are right now on the private equity side. So well done, right? So I mean, sometimes you hold out and you lose. Sometimes you hold out, right? The most prominent example is Wix, right? Said no to Google, and then I don't know, it made a double-digit billion amount more. But obviously, cybersecurity makes more money than data. You're in the wrong business, Michael.
Well, I mean, I think that what's interesting here is that that Mark is making a bet both on what he calls the $150 billion data, data management market, but he's also doubling down on defending his core application. I think all the other mega vendors, whether it's SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, increasingly when they buy, when customers are buying, they're looking for that data layer as well. And so this is actually what customers are expecting, which is a full stack, including that foundational layer.
Right, and you're absolutely right? I was at Sapphire last week. You were at Microsoft Build last week. It was all about one lake, right? You have the battle for the data. I predict, like in the second half of this year, we have CIOs waking up and said, "Oh my God, I have my data in 7 places. I don't need that in 7 places. That's a hazard that costs me money, because I have to keep hydrating or build those lakes, building those houses." And I think that will consolidate down to 2.5 to 3, right? You will have your ERP one as a center of gravity. You have your public cloud one where you're building something. If you're Microsoft shop, you're going to be in Azure. There's no avoidable thing of that. And then you might have something on top. And I think Mark Benioff and Salesforce are fighting for the something on top, which could be also ServiceNow's problem or challenge going forward. Right? How many data lakes do I have to hydrate? Is going to be the question of the second half of 2025.
Well, and the good thing is that open data formats have made multi-cloud an easier reality, and yet virtually and orchestrated. And I think that's what you're getting when you start looking at this data foundations, right? You can have your data in multiple places, but how do you actually make sure that you can leverage it and leverage it in real time, both operationally and analytically, servicing your AI layer as well?
See, call me an old Salesforce automation developer, putting data on a laptop so you can transact offline. I'm squarely, rootly, deeply in the replication camp. I mean, 10 years or so ago, I made the math that if I query the same amount of data 3 times, I'm cost negative from egress cost. I mean, everybody follows Oracle and there's no data egress cost. To be virtually and knowing, and I hate the term data catalog, right? Catalogs are done in the real world. Why do we do data catalogs? It has to be invented. There has to be data by brain, memory, whatever. But recreating all this data and the whole zero ETLs thing, which will then buffer the data somewhere, it will end up in multiple data lakes. I can be wrong with it, but I'm squarely in the replication, not in the federation camp.
Well, I think this is where we'll see technologies try to answer that question. It's interesting to see, Microsoft give up their proprietary format for open format and actually force everything into it, so that you actually try to minimize by design the amount of replication, even though you have all these different engines using it. It's the right way to go.
That's the good thing. That's a good thing, right? Luckily, we have no standards war, right? Yeah, we don't have Delta against Iceberg. Iceberg has squarely, firmly won, right? Which is good for the industry, gives the CIOs peace of mind that there's one way of getting the data. And I think we also see in the second half, like getting the question to transactional vendors like Salesforce or Workday, whatever, can you Iceberg my data over into my data lakehouse?
So I think netting this down a little bit, I think the question does become, and you raised it, will these agentic architectures be domain specific or centralized? Are they really looking at actions that are fundamentally increasingly leveraging data sets that are governed, trusted, enriched in a way that I can make good decisions on it by domain?
Absolutely right. Yes, absolutely right. It's going to be one of the big questions which 2025 will partially answer for us, but we don't know them yet. And this makes perfect content to talk about, have the pros and cons, and share them.
And
yet.
we will be
Anything
on this
important
journey
we forgot?
of transition.
Yes.
We'll certainly be on this journey, this transition journey for a while, and people have to work through how do they consolidate into different architectural designs. And so CDAOs and on CIOs, as well as the set of executives will have some decisions ahead of them. And certainly this is going to be something you and I will be talking about going forward.
Right. No, absolutely. Hey, we're coming up to our 15-minute sweet spot. Anything important, famous last words you want to add? Advice?
Well, I think if I'm a CDAO or an AI analyst leader, the question that I think is going to come down to is where should I prioritize to future-proof my stack for agentic decision-first, operations? And I think this is where, we're really going to have to keep in mind, and, I think we'll all be pushing on, what is this metadata first foundations? What does governance really mean here? Because these are things that I think we're going to see as the new control planes, the new places where, vendors are going to start really pushing on what they can actually own and make sticky to themselves.
Right. Great point, right? And I'll give the standard boilerplate Constellation advice in case of acquisitions, right? If you are an Informatica customer and you just looked at Informatica World 2 weeks ago with all the announcement of data and agents and so on, and you're building on this, get in writing the confirmation from Informatica that these will be developed no matter what's going to happen with the acquisition, so you can ensure your data roadmap from that perspective. If you're a joint customer, hey, pop open the champagne. Things between Salesforce and Informatica will get better. If you're using something else, not just for CRM, but for ERP, do the same thing like in the first case, get the reinsurances from Informatica now that they will be supported. I think it will be a win-win because Salesforce needs and wants integration loops into other ERP systems, other systems to make the whole transactional agent force thing work. But that's part of the future. So be safe as a customer of Informatica, get those reassurances, and the deal's going to go through 6 to 9 months, they're saying, right? And Salesforce.
Certainly right. And certainly look at that from a partner perspective as well. Who can help you with this, and leverage this merger of technology and get on top of what, frankly, as an executive, you'll be owning, not just about, how much data you've stored, but what decisions did you improve with how you brought this all together. So I think we've got some interesting times ahead of us. And you and I will certainly have some discussions around how we make this into both velocity on the app dev side, as well as how do we make it from a decisioning standpoint.
Exactly. Never a dull moment in this business, right? It's all accelerating. AI makes it more fun in 2025. Thank you for your time, Michael. Thank you for your quick assessment. Thank you for you guys listening and watching to our shenanigans here. If you think we missed something, if you think we said something wrong, if we said something right, please provide feedback on our social channels. We're here listening to you. What do you make out of the Informatica acquisition by Salesforce? Thanks for watching.